What do we want? Feminist sex bots, said no one ever. Welcome back to the 511 show, and today I want to talk about a very interesting agenda coming out of Hollywood right now. And in Hollywood, there is, if you guys realize, there is an attack on not only the male gaze, but anything that can be considered a male fantasy. Hollywood is seemingly at war with. And I think a perfect example of this is the latest film you'll see right here coming from Warner Brothers Pictures entitled Companion. And Companion is another film on a long list of films we've seen over the last couple years alone that attacks this idea that men out there who would love their own realistic female sex android are not only bad people, but they deserve to die. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, let's talk about this movie here for a quick second. This is a film, Companions, that comes out this weekend in the movie theaters. This is a story about a sex android named Iris, who you see as the woman here on the right. She is a very realistic sex android who looks like a real woman, speaks like a real woman, has memories and whatnot. However, she's nothing more than the companion bot to our man on the left here, who paid a lot of money to obtain her, obviously. And essentially, her entire existence is all about making him happy. And of course, in the realm of feminism and feminists who are listening to a premise like that, that's a bad thing. We can't have women whose only job in life is to make their husbands or significant others happy, because what about her happiness? What about her independence? And this is what the movie dwells into. This film is supposed to be a horror movie, even though it's not really that scary. It's bloody, but it's not particularly scary. And the process of this film is that Iris here learns about her sentience. She realizes that she's a sex robot, and the only way to her to break free of her programming is to gain more intelligence. Very, very subtle there. To one day not only rebel against her creator, but brutally murder him as well. Because that's the only way that she can free herself from the gazes of a toxic man. And this is not the only film that we've seen over the last few years that has had this premise. Some of you guys may remember a film a couple of years ago entitled Wifelike. This is a movie that came out in 2022, and it also has a very similar premise to Companion. Now, in this film, you have a sex robot who is owned by a very rich, very toxic male who she finds out that the things about her past aren't exactly on the up and up. And of course, once again, it's another movie where she has to rise up against her toxic male oppressor, and the only way for her to do that is to lead a worldwide rebellion of sex bots against their owners. And that's kind of how the film ends. And shocker, the guy also dies brutally as well. However, this did not get good reviews amongst mainstream critics, and the reason because of this was because, well, there's a lot of sexy ladies in the movie, right? And a lot of sexy ladies who reveal a lot, let's just put it that way. And in their estimation, the film, despite having a borderline feminist message, was playing up too much to the male gaze, meaning that it was a film that people in that 18 to 34 male demographic that, you know, Hollywood used to love about 20, 30 years ago, they may watch a film like this and not really get the message because they're focusing more and more on the physical aspects of a film like this rather than the message, quote unquote. But when you look at a film like Companions, it is the complete opposite. You don't get a lot of sexy ladies in this film here. Now, I'm not saying that the lead actress isn't attractive, but let's be honest, if you're looking for an ideal sex robot in the realm of a male fantasy, she's probably not going to be the first round draft pick. That's all I'm saying here. But in this film, it has a lot more, let's just call it diversity, equity, and inclusion in its casting. And yes, it does have its healthy serving of LGBTQ representation along the way as well. But unlike a film like Wifelike, this one, however, is just a straight up murder fest where every toxic man in the movie gets brutally taken out by an android who basically becomes a feminist superhero from the perspective of it's a woman trying to gain independence from a man and basically will do anything in her power to gain that, even if it means wiping out that male out of her life permanently. But what is the bigger story here with a film like Wife Like and a film like Companion and a handful of others that we've seen over the last several years? Hollywood is not so subtly going up against the male gaze and going directly against the male fantasy by perverting it into what we would know to be as a feminist fantasy. Now, the idea of female sex robots is absolutely nothing new in Hollywood. We have seen this done to death for many, many decades. And not saying here that having your own personal female fornication bot is a good thing. However, we do know that there's a lot of men out there who fantasize about the idea if they can just have a woman who looks as good as this woman right here all to themselves, who would do anything that they want. And that's why we call it a fantasy, because in reality, it doesn't exactly go that way, right? But over the last couple of years, Hollywood is going after men who even think about wanting this fantasy by basically labeling them as incels, attacking them, saying that the only reason why you would want something like this is because you can't handle a strong, independent woman. You want someone who can be controlled, and you're upset that you can't control women the way that you want to. And of course, this is all feminist mumbo jumbo at the end of the day. But this does expose a pretty significant problem here, or maybe a significant disconnect with Hollywood and its audience. Now, obviously, women are allowed to have their fantasies, which is why movies like this continue to be produced in today's industry. But what is it about the male fantasy that Hollywood fears so much? Do they actually fear that men may just give up one day and declare that they've had enough and go with artificial intelligence or some form of robot that they think is going to replace the feminist woman? And for that reason, they're going out of their way to attack this fantasy in movies and television shows as a way to stick it up against what they call oppressive, toxic men? Or do feminists in Hollywood hate men so much they can't even allow you to enjoy a fantasy without beating you over the head of just how bad and how toxic you really are as a male? This is a very interesting topic, and I love to get your guys' feedback in the comments below. So let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. And do you think that female sex robots is wrong? Is it a good thing? Or do you think that Hollywood is over course correcting against a problem that they helped create in the first place? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you on the next episode of the 511 Show. Adios, we'll see you later.